not gonna say TT Boy. I'm never gonna say TT Boy was better than the Fugees. Better than the fucking senator of Haiti or whatever.
Yeah.
Episode 10. We got to double digits.
Finally.
What?
I'm playing. Insert sombrero happy Mexican music here. We are doing the Mexican hat dance right here. So we got here. It literally took us like 2 months to get 2 episodes out, but we gave them to you. We played Ghost theme song last show.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but you know what I mean?
No.
We're trying to show you that we're actually good employees. You know what I mean?
With that song?
Yeah. Yeah, we're trying to show you that, you know what I mean? If a little time, effort, and love, we can be there. You know what I mean? So let's see what we got on the docket. I put on the show sheet. Michael, I have no Michael White last name insert here. I don't know what his actual last name is. It's Wysolowski, I'm assuming. He got probation after sexually assaulting or making a 17-year-old kid his sex slave. He only got probation. The reason I wanted to bring that up is because if a doctor gets 99 years for performing an abortion, and a person who has an abortion gets time in jail, I don't ever understand why a person who makes somebody a sex slave only gets probation. It's a rough justification in my mind. I don't care. I know it probably is different states, different jurisdictions, different courthouses, all that stuff. It's kind of the same thing I had with the.
You're just saying in 2019 that shouldn't be happening.
Yes. Yeah. Like, especially after the kid from Stanford got, you know, he had a prominent life or whatever. They didn't want to ruin his life.
Yeah, Brock Turner.
Yeah, it's a rough. It's just weird to see how our judicial system works in general. It really just seems like if you're in the perfect time, perfect place, you're walking. But if you're a pregnant black lady, you could get shot and killed by the cops, and nobody goes to jail.
Was she pregnant? I heard that she wasn't.
Well, she said she was. So I don't necessarily know if she was or wasn't. I didn't look into it. I regardless of whether she was pregnant or not, she wasn't. She didn't have a weapon. So for a police officer to stand over her, I forget the lady's name. I don't know her name off the top of my head. But there was a lady, I think it was in Texas.
Texas, yeah.
And she was wrestling with a police officer, and the police officer got her onto the ground, and she was on her back, and she screamed, "Hey, I'm pregnant." He just pulled out his gun and shot her a few times.
A couple shots,
yeah.
Killed her.
And the excuse or the reasoning was he said he was fearing for his life. I saw another.
She was laying on the fucking ground,
and she wasn't. Yeah. She wasn't armed. And
yeah,
I never want to I never want to say that I'm ever fearing for my life because a woman is laying on the ground, and I have a gun. And that's just that's my thing. I'll never say that I'm anti-police. I'm just anti-bad cop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm anti-good cop being silent.
So this is actually pretty. It's nice that this came up because I actually had a pretty productive conversation with my wife this past week. We were discussing these shootings, and we were discussing whether or not it is more due to the fact that people may not be as they may have an attitude to resist the cops more today than maybe back when we were younger.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So is it that people have encounters with cops and they're generally more combative now, or is it strictly due to the way policing is now? Because I think the attitude has probably changed on both ends.
For sure.
I think
for sure. I think cops are forced to change a little bit, but
I think people are just kind of fed up with their shit, you know?
Yeah, I think it's almost a cultural type thing to where you just want to. It's almost a look cool type thing. This is the generation to look cool or do things that are hip. I think that plays a role as far as people, because cops aren't cool.
Yeah.
So even if you just got finished robbing a 7-Eleven, then you're still resisting or talking, or just being dumb and not complying, I guess, which doesn't necessarily justify a lot of the actions that happen after.
Yeah.
But I think that happens a lot. That's not the whole story, because sometimes they're compliant and it's bad stuff just
There's
happens still.
definitely people
But
that are just
that's
murdered.
a much, much smaller percentage, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think a lot of it is just people, and I think that's like generational thing that's probably happened in the last 10 years or so.
Because that's what we were talking about too. It seems like the people that are even younger than us, they have kind of a more defiant attitude towards cops
authority in general
than we might have.
I just I guess I'm more keen or I'm more homed in on a specific word you used, which was combatant. Because I don't necessarily know if even if that lady
No, we're not.
I know, just you're
not
just
so much in.
you mean more
framing
defiance.
Yeah.
Not necessarily throwing hands or being roughhousing. The problem I have with the cops, where I was, which I don't think I tagged you in it or sent it to you, because normally I'll send stuff to the group chat. There was a dude, I think it was in DC, where he was just picking up trash at a resident where he worked, and he actually worked for the property company, picking up trash at the home or at the on the property.
Yeah.
And the cops pulled up and they were like, "Hey, well, we need to see your ID and we're investigating something." He was like, "Well, what exactly brought you to this property? Because I live here. So why do you get to come onto my property and ask me for my identification?" Then it said he had a gopher, which I guess that's, I worked at a drugstore, so a gopher was like an as seen on TV thing, where it just was, that little thing that picks up trash.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So he had that, and they were like, "Hey, well, I feel they said it on their camera, and I think they did it on purpose.
Yeah, most definitely.
You have a weapon in your hand, and I feel threatened that you have that in your hand." He was like, "Well, you have a gun, and I only have, I don't have a weapon." And then I think a higher commanding officer came and was like, "Did you get his name?" And he was like, "Yeah." "Did you run it?" And he was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Did he live here?" I'm like, "Yeah." "We'll just give him his ID back and we're gone." You know what I mean? So I think there's I think there may be.
So he gave him his
he did
ID?
Eventually, but
eventually.
Yeah,
So-
eventually. It wasn't like immediately.
Okay.
He was like,
and I think that's what me and my wife were talking about, is like, why not just give them your ID right away, especially if you were just
because I think
witnessing what they
pride.
were doing.
No, I don't think it's pride. I honestly believe that in 2019, I think all this shit was kind of happening in the 80s and the 90s, where cops were kind of overstepping their bounds. Yeah. And I think now people have more. There's more information, and they're recognizing that cops don't have the absolute authority that we kind of, or that they kind of try to implement. Like, hey, if I'm walking down the street and I'm not doing any and not breaking any laws, and you roll up on me, you're like, "Hey, I need to see your ID because I'm investigating something," and you're like, "What's the crime?" And you're like, no, give me your ID first.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you the crime later, so you can try to find something. Mm-hmm. Or like that Dallas, and I think it was Dallas, Texas, where the guy just had his dog out in the front yard, and they rolled up on him and tried to arrest him, saying that he was a different dude under a different name. And he didn't, of course he didn't give him an ID. He didn't give him anything. And they were like, "Oh, well, that's not your dog." He was like, "Yeah, that is my dog." And they tried to arrest him in general. And I think we're just seeing a lot more education that
and people are just kind of fed up with this shit.
Yeah.
too.
No, I agree. The education
There's
lets us know that
information,
we're more fed up, that cops are regular people. But when they go to court, because they take that oath, even though they're regular people, they kind of get preferential treatment. and
Their
or
word means more.
there was a
It's
dude-
weighted heavily.
Yes.
there was a dude, there was a sergeant in Baltimore who pled guilty to planting a gun on an innocent person, and Undisclosed, which is a podcast which became famous because of Rabia Chaudhry, who was with the Adnan Syed, which was season 1 of Serial. So they've created a podcast now where they're trying to get innocent people off. Not just people that she knew like Adnan Syed, but other people just in general. And they claimed that the cop in question on whatever case that they were dealing with currently planted the gun. Of course, nobody wants to believe the random citizen. They want to believe the cop ahead of them. And then he turns out 10 years later, he pleads guilty to planting a gun in a completely separate case. And everyone's like, okay, now what about everybody else who said that he planted something?
Everyone else he arrested for that exact same crime.
Yeah.
That should all be come into question.
Yeah.
And part of me thinks that they should all just be let go.
Yeah. Yeah. So I honestly believe that is kind of the issue is we're just seeing because of social media, we're seeing so many more people in so many different precincts across the country.
Yeah.
And we're just seeing Joe Blow, who's just a regular dude who I don't necessarily think he takes his job less serious than anybody else. He just doesn't go about it the right way.
Yeah.
And I think we're just seeing average citizens hold everybody. And granted, are we punishing, quote unquote, the good cops because of bad cops? Sure. But if you're going to hold by the Blue Lives Matter mantra, then, you know what I mean? You can't say that, all cops are good.
Yeah. What do you think, Os?
I agree. I think that with the social media era and the cell phone era, which is everybody's camera, I think that sheds light on it a lot more than it would have been even 2 or 3 years ago. But especially, recently when it becomes a big topic with Kaepernick and just some of the other events that's happened. Now, every time it happens, you're going to hear about it. Not because people care more, not because the news just really wants to get this story out because they care, they want things to change. You're seeing it because it's the story, it's the big story for them to have. I think that's why the national media puts it out. Not that it's still not wrong or whatever, but I don't think it's happening too much more than it did before. But still, there has to be something. I think the big thing with any of these situations is the lack of accountability and then follow through with the punishments of the cops when it happens.
I would like to push back on Ghost though. I honestly believe that we don't hear about it all the time now because we're numb to it. I believe 2 or 3 years ago.
Are two different things though.
No, I believe 2 or 3 years ago we heard about all of the innocent killings and all that stuff. I don't think we hear about them as much anymore. Because I see them all the time on social media, but they're not as big. It's only because I follow certain people.
Yeah, I think anytime a black person is killed, harassed by a cop, you will hear about it way more in the last 3 years than you would have before that.
I think you heard about it between a certain period, between
especially
4 years ago
happens.
and 3 years ago. But I think in the last 6-7 months, I don't think it gets as much publicity anymore.
I'd say from Trayvon Martin to
I would say
Ferguson,
Sandra Bland.
Yeah. So
no, because Castile and
were they
was
after
that.
But they were still kind of close together, though.
The man in North Carolina was after that, and what it was.
I would say the
after
dude who
that.
got killed in Minnesota. Was it Minnesota?
That's Philando Castile.
Yeah, I would say
there were a couple after him too. I can't remember the man's name in North Carolina that got shot in the
back. There was a Florida one too. So there's.
I just don't think. I think we're kind of getting numb to it, or not numb to it. I don't think it's the clickbait because of the presidential candidates, and because of the presidential. I think the presidential climate and the politics, the shenanigans in politics.
But that kind of makes the point,
taking
though,
everything
is
over.
because the reason, like I said, the reason they were bringing it up was because it was the big story that you had to tell at that time, because not because CNN or Fox News cared, but because at that time it was it would be the biggest story. Now there's so many other things going on with the taxes and foreign, stuff going on.
It's
war.
all politics related, though.
It's all. That's what I'm saying. It's all. But you got to realize. So was that. They're in real life. It's not political. It's an event that's happening. How they're telling it and why they're telling it is because they're making it political.
I agree. I agree with that. I agree with the spin aspect of it. But I believe it's honestly a human rights issue.
For sure.
And I believe that it went on for so long, and black people have been saying this shit since the 80s, or even before. But it got loud, and now that social media kind of has taken over, just anything to get your news, like the news reports what's big in social media. It's not the other way around, like it was probably 6 years ago, where social media responded to whatever the news reported. Now it's the other way. Now if it's big on social media, it could be something silly like Anderson Cooper claps back at random fan. That's going to get a bunch of clicks and people are going to write a bunch of headlines on that only because it's big on social media. And I feel like maybe journalism has gone to clickbait instead of journalism with a capital J. I feel like there's a lot more opinionated stuff.
I think it's hard for journalists, though, too, because there's such a fight for our attention.
Absolutely.
Our attention span has lowered so much that because we have so many different distractions and we have so much more that's going on around us than ever before.
Yeah.
You're fed so much more information than you've ever received before. Before, people just used to watch the local news, maybe get the newspaper, see the national, nightly news or something like that. But now you have stuff fed in from you every which way. Yeah. You don't know if it's accurate. You don't know how biased it is. And everybody's tugging at you from all these different directions. So I don't necessarily think that black people being murdered by police has... I don't think people are okay with it or as numb to it.
I'll never say they're okay with it.
Or as numb to it now. I think there's just a lot more crazier shit going on. Like, I think it may even hint at how good of a place America is in at the time. Like when Black Lives Matter and everything started to kick off, that was under Obama. Things weren't as like hectic and crazy for white people. Now Donald Trump is president. Their world is kind of going to shit, and they're seeing all these things that he's doing, and they're now focusing on this, where I think you kind of started to see this conversation brought up more and more amongst people that aren't affected by this particular issue. So, but now that there's so much crazy stuff going on in our country that I think it does kind of fall by the wayside, unfortunately.
Do you not to home in on a phrase that was said out of all that, because I agree with the whole sentiment. Let me go back.
That's not my firm belief. That's just me throwing it out there.
I agree with you, because I believe that a large section of the population believes what you said. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying you believe it. I'm just saying you're just saying the climate of the way people have discord in 2018-19. Let me reset the show. So there's three of us. It's me, Ghost, and Rio.
Yep.
My sister was supposed to be here. Bum wasn't here. Yeah, I'm calling you out. So not to home in on one thing you said, but do we, as a room, do we believe that? Because if you listen to a conservative white male, they'll say that they're more under attack than anybody else in the country.
Yeah.
And I've heard that. I've heard that from black people that are conservative from the South. I've heard, not saying that they are. I try to follow people that are not in the echo chamber, or that I'm not in the echo chamber, that I don't agree with necessarily. I try to listen to a bunch of different people on social medias, because let's a big picture this. I created a podcast to have a platform where I could discuss stuff that I feel is important with some people that I respect their opinions. And I feel like we're not super biased or super jaded necessarily, quote unquote. Jaded is all perspective, right? Because certain things people say you're jaded about, this shit could be real. So I wanted to create in the podcast forum, there is no gatekeeper. I could literally contact Podbean, and I could literally put my shit out there for everybody else. Where last week we had 5 listens because we hadn't put out a show in a month, right? And they were in Cameroon, they were in England, they were in Illinois, California, and Texas. And there's not another place. I don't honestly believe that there is another medium on the planet that can reach those people like that. Because if you're talking about a Twitter or a Facebook, somebody would have to know your name, or you have to go viral in order for a random person to know. You could literally type in my name because you're looking, or the name of this show, The Brilliant Minds of Idiots. You can type in a popular show that shares similar words in the name and find this, listen to episode 1 and think you like it and continue to listen. You know what I mean? So this platform is why I wanted to continue, why I wanted to create this platform. Now, zooming in, does this room believe that conservative white men are under attack at all?
So yes, if we're looking at it just at the question at face value, I would say yes.
I'm rolling.
But
hold on. Before you explain, Ghost, do you believe you're a person who's not on social media as much as me, and Rio's on it less than I am, and you're on it less than Rio? Yes. Do you believe that the conservative Caucasian male is under attack in America?
Yeah, I'd say yeah. I mean,
hold on before you explain, because I agree as well. But what I want to do is go around the room and explain, and I want each of us to explain our actual viewpoints, because I do believe that they are. Yeah. I believe that our reasoning for being under attack is justifiable.
Totally valid.
Yes, I think it's justifiable. But if you listen to them, they'll be like, "Oh, you hate my conservative values." No. I don't believe that that's the case. Yeah. I believe that you hate everybody else's values. Yeah. So we're coming for your dome because you're the one who's intolerant. Yeah. I can roll with somebody who's conservative. I know people in my life that are conservative, and I love those people. My problem with people who are conservative is they refuse to allow somebody else's viewpoints to exist.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or to even believe that they're valid.
Yes. And it's in my opinion, no matter how uncomfortable it is, it's the abortion issue. If you don't believe in abortion, you have every right. The choice is available to you to renounce abortion in your own life. And I'm not, before this gets taken as a clip, even though it won't be, because nobody gives a fuck about what we say except for the 300 people that listen to our show.
Maybe it's been a while since we put one out. So
let me say that. Let me say this. The clip is nobody in this room agrees with a 9-month abortion. Nobody in this, as soon as that bitch is No. As soon as that embryo starts kicking, nobody agrees that baby should be aborted. Essentially, as soon as we believe that it can have a decent life, statistically. Now, when that is a gray area. I don't know. I'm not a scientist. Nobody in this room is a scientist. Do I believe that a woman should have a conversation with the producer of the baby? Because it's still, a woman can't provide life without the male. Women are the only people who can provide life, but you still need a male assistant to provide that life, right? So I do believe that you should always consult if you have a relationship with a male. Not one time, not a 1 minute, not a one night stand, not a one night stand, not a sexual assault. Everything's on the up and up. We went to Coachella. I got the herp alert. We share the herp alert. I sent it to you like, yo, this happened, yada, yada, yada. That instance, maybe not. But if we've been dating for a year and we go together, you know what I mean? You should consult your person, your quote unquote significant other before you have that abortion. That's my opinion. I'm not saying that's right. And I'm saying if you don't agree with me, I'm not saying you're wrong. That's just how I feel. These old conservative white males are under attack, but I don't necessarily know if all of them are unjustified. So you heard my spiel. Real. What were you going to explain when you said yes?
I mean, that's pretty much what I would have said. It's just I feel like they are under attack. I think there's without a doubt you could say that, but they're all valid reasons. These are all issues that I feel like the majority of people agree with. You know, like just letting a woman have the right to choose what they want to do with their body, or a person, or whoever you want to marry. You could do with yourself whatever it is that you please, as long as it doesn't affect me.
I will. You know what? Before I speak, let's go to Ghost.
Yeah, I pretty much agree. I think a lot of it is for the issues that come up. I think a lot of this actually though stems from right or wrong, regardless of what you believe. I think a lot of this stems from the presidential kind of climate right now. I think if there was a different president, they wouldn't be under attack as much because I think a lot of it's like collateral damage. I think his beliefs are strong, and a lot of them are just outlandish. But I think that in an attempt, to attack him, a lot of the conservatives are just collateral. Not that what they're doing is right, because they haven't really changed what they're doing, except for some they're supporting him in some of his different ventures. But I think a lot of it is just, I'm going to attack that whole party just to kind of get my point across because this is unsuccessful, or I want to, even nitpick a little more than I would normally. But I think a lot of the stuff that they're doing to back the president is also, deserving of some attacks and some things that are happening.
Yeah. No. I mean, that's a real thing. I didn't bring it up. I didn't create it. It wasn't just me just creating it. People actually feel that way.
No, I know that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying right now, in that moment.
Bring it up.
You chose to talk about old white men. And
it's a shitty conversation
left.
no matter which way you wipe it.
Yeah.
Should go both ways.
Well, I thought it was funny. He went to an NBA Finals. What the fuck you did, Rio? Exactly.
I was really trying to think of an accomplishment. I was like, yeah, no, nothing.
Dang,
I ain't did shit.
Nothing.
Does he have a kid? I made a kid.
I don't think so.
Yeah, fuck him.
I don't think he got married either.
I brought life into this world.
Yeah,
What has he done?
Yeah.
You got him.
Fuck that dude. Let's see. Ghost, did you have anything to add to that? Not this is a shitty conversation. I'm just talking about Caucasian male, conservative males being under attack in 2019.
Or me being better than Kawhi Leonard.
I think we covered all angles. We covered all angles on that topic.
Okay. Speaking of, based on the podcast released earlier, so Alabama passed that abortion law. And then a character on Arthur came out as gay and he got married. And then the state of Alabama pulled Arthur off its airwaves. So in the state of Alabama, You can't see with that fist that everyone was talking about in last year and the year before about Arthur being mad and balling up his fist. You don't get that cartoon anymore. So I guess my bigger question is, are Caucasian males under attack, or are they shooting themselves in the foot like Plaxico Burress?
I mean, I think it's both. Like I just said, these guys, they're just choosing the wrong hills to die on.
Let me say this too. Let me say this though. Let me say this. I don't hate conservative people's viewpoints. That's not what I hate. What I hate is that you want me to live by your viewpoints.
Yeah.
No. You can live by yours. I'll live by mine. And if we're both happy, we both can stand in line at the grocery store. We both can pay with these greenbacks. We both can take this E. coli spinach home. We both can get sick. I'm okay with it. Yeah, I'm okay with it. My issue is... Oh,
I was saying because the Mexicans gave you that E. coli.
Yeah, Rio did that. The Rio de Janeiro gave us that, for sure.
It was hot out there.
So let me just say that this show is not an anti-conservative... I don't think anybody in this room actually hates conservatives.
No.
I think it's just, don't tell me how to live and I won't tell you how to live. Just allow me the choice, and you can have the choice to follow your viewpoints. I'll have the choice to follow my viewpoints, and then we can just live in a harmonious society knowing that you did what you did, I did what I did. You think you're going to get judged a certain way when you die. I think I'm going to get judged a certain way when I die, and we're going to roll.
I don't even think it's... I don't even know if it's that. I think it's the politicians that we elect from both sides. Those are the people that are really responsible for all these outlandish laws and things that are going on. Like, they really don't give a shit about their constituents. And I think that goes for both sides, both Democrat and Republican. They don't give a shit about us. And I think that's something that just about every person could agree on, is that the system that we have in place right now is not working. And until we start voting for different people and we get the people that are doing all this shady, fucked up shit out, we're never going to know if it could get better.
Is it... See, I was rolling, but then before I was going to respond to it, I do agree that I do believe it is the system that is actually not working for us, because the system is geared to allow people with a lot more money have a lot more influence and create a lot more of the policies that a lot more of the people that aren't those businesses / people live by. So I agree with you. I believe that it is a system issue, because I do believe that people, including I believe that regular people, vote outside their own interests. But that's only because the two-party system is there, and when you are either a Democrat or a Republican, those two people are the people you have to choose. So it was either Donald Trump or it was Hillary Clinton. Whether or not you liked either of those candidates, like, I voted for myself, but that's only because I wanted to put that on my resume. I wanted to put potential presidential candidate. And then I got evidence to back that up. Even if I got 0.001% of the vote, how much you get?
I didn't vote for you because your stance on plumbing pre-Roman. So I was going to, but then I didn't.
You know what I need you to do, Ghost? No, I need you to do. I need you to only take a shower once a week. But I need you to shit the same. I need you to shit the same and not use toilet paper. And I need you to see if you're going to eat that ass.
I think he feels the same way about it no matter what.
Yeah, I know he does.
I was going to say.
What I'm saying is.
We can go plumbing.
No,
my stance is the same.
What I need you to do, though, is do it for a year and then write some memoirs. I need you to write some memoirs after a year to figure out whether or not you got it. You know what I mean?
How strongly I feel.
Yeah, I need you to feel how strongly. I do
It's
believe.
his evil power. to get you.
Yes, my evil powers get you into a shitty conversation.
Literally.
Or not wipe that shit across.
Have a debate about
and
something
allow you to
you
think about
really
it.
don't care about.
Yeah. Yes.
No,
And
hold
make
on.
you fight for it. You know you're like fight for my opinion and my beliefs, my vote. You fight for my vote.
That's the only
No,
way I
I
know you're
feel-
serious about your vote.
He's got me sticking my flag on this hill,
Yeah.
I still think
screaming
it's,
at the top of my lungs.
let me say this. I don't think we actually talked about our viewpoints on this issue. But Alabama pulling Arthur because of the cartoon having a gay character. Same thing with Bert and Ernie. Bert and Ernie had the same controversy, even though the creator of Sesame Street came out and said these puppets don't have sexuality preferences, which makes fucking sense to me.
Yeah.
Because they're not real,
They're
but
yellow
people were mad.
and fucking orange.
and Elmo's a fucking
Vinyl, yeah.
a fucking gremlin if you saw him in real life. So was Oscar or what was the blue one?
I always
Oscar.
want to say Gonzo, but then I know
No,
it's
no,
not
no,
Gonzo.
that's the
That's
one with the
Grouch?
nose.
That's the green
That's
one.
the green one. I don't know what the
Oh.
blue one was. The fuck was the blue one?
Cookie Monster?
No, the other one
No.
though. There was
Grover.
two.
Grover.
Oh.
Grover.
I'm a parent, motherfucker.
Been a minute, yeah.
Yeah,
I
Grover.
I haven't read that book to my son in a while, but it's Grover.
Yeah. No. As soon as you said it, it makes perfect sense to me. He looked just like the president, Grover Cleveland. How did you guys feel about Alabama pulling the cartoon though?
I mean, it's obviously ridiculous. I don't. In an age where we tried, and that's a state thing. I guess it's not international.
For sure.
Not international, but it's not a national feeling, of course. And to shame, it kind of is trying to not trying, but it's making it seem like that's the wrong thing, which makes people more scared. We go backwards when you do things like that, because people are going to be that way, whether you like it, agree with it, or not.
Exactly.
So when you do stuff like that, it makes bullying in schools in your state now, since you're isolating the event, it makes bullying in your schools more common. It makes hate crimes more common because now kids are growing up and seeing, oh, that's not cool to be. And it would go back to the cool thing, what's cool and what's not. So yeah, obviously it's a ridiculous rule in general, but just it's not a good look either for what's going to happen in the future with that state and with the climate and nationally. But
That shit's wrong. You're
it's
crazy.
It just makes no sense.
You see how that made sense to you when you said it, but when somebody says you don't make sense, never mind. I don't want to bring up old wounds.
It was actually valid though.
No, mine too.
But
I tried. I tried to pull your ass back in. I tried to. Go ahead, Rio.
But I think it's also just it's just further breeding intolerance into our youth, and I think that's the last thing we need. I think it's every parent's responsibility. I think it's every person's responsibility to make sure that our next generation's more tolerant. There's so many people that I know that have been victim to intolerance that, you know, it really does hold a special place in my heart. So like to see this is you just make more hateful people, and that's not what the world needs.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna split this off. There's a fork in the road, and I'm gonna take one way, and then we'll double back and go another way. Based on intolerance.
Oh man.
Where? No.
It don't got nothing to do with asses, does it?
No.
Okay,
No.
all right.
I mean, my
Proceed,
ass got
proceed.
followed. I was gonna ask you guys, where was the craziest place you've been like followed or watch? Have you guys been watched or followed or racially profiled? Because BK is out in the world right now, racially profiling a bunch of people.
Yeah, someone that looks just like me.
Yeah, so she's definitely
Following
outside right now doing it. Shazzy and Show, it's Ramadan, so them niggas is just hungry.
Yeah.
So
Well, they're probably eating right now.
yeah, they're eating right now. So where was Real? Where was the crazy? What's the craziest racially? Because I got two, and I'm gonna go last. No, I'm gonna go after Rio. Rio, what was the craziest rate? We're like, damn, that was racist type of moment.
So the most racist time. The one time that I pulled it out of my head. Well, there were 2 times. Both are pretty shitty. So I'll tell you the least embarrassing, I guess.
You'll escalate.
So I was at a discount. I was like 18. I was at a discount clothing store called Ross. I will say their name.
Definitely a national chain. I'm sure there's some broke people all around the world that like,
Yeah.
oh, I know that place.
I was going there to look for a tie for work. I worked as a bank teller, went there to look for a tie. I had a tie in my hand going up to pay. The line was hella long. I threw the tie just on a rack like a normal asshole 18-year-old would do. Threw it on the rack closest to me, walked out the store. Where me and my buddy Zeus, who some of you may be familiar with, we get chased by security asking about a damn tie.
Was it a Trump tie?
No,
Okay.
I didn't fuck with Trump back then either.
Okay.
But that was pretty shitty because I was like, man, I have money in my pocket right now that I could clearly pay for this. I was like, that made me feel pretty shitty. But I think the funniest time was at a grocery store. I was going the night before. I was going to cook something, and I had some bacon. I think I might have had some butter.
Oh.
And since I was going to be up early cooking for the family, I got myself some beer.
The trifecta.
The 3
He hit the Steph
Bs.
Curry from the half court.
The 3 Bs.
Yeah.
And what was sad is I started getting followed.
Hold on. What
when I got
happened
the
to you,
bacon.
though? What happened to you, though?
A security guard was clearly following me around the store, and it's my local store that I go to all the time. I'm there in the morning, in the night, doesn't matter. I'm always in there. And what was sad was I didn't get followed until I got the bacon, and it was before I got the beer.
No. If you got butter and then you go to the bacon, no, you're trying to feed your family.
Yeah.
And then you
You're
got
trying
beer.
to put
you're
some
like,
calories
yeah.
on.
Yeah, if you got beer. So I've had 2. I used to work at a drugstore before my current position or my current job, and in my street clothes, I worked at these stores previously for days, weeks. I would actually say months, and I would go in my street clothes, and people would follow me around. So what I would do is I would just like fuck with people, and I would just like take an item, and I'd walk a couple my aisles over, and I'd drop it behind, you know what I mean? I'd go and grab some body wash, drop it behind the paper towels. You know what I mean? I'd hide it. Because if you're going to follow me and I know you, and then when you see my face and you still want to ask me where I put where I put the body wash?
Yeah.
I want to be like, it's
it's
behind the bounty, nigga. Go get it.
You got to feel extra racist at that point.
Yeah. I feel like, fuck you. You know what I mean? Go get it. So that happened to me a few times, actually, more than 5. And then I actually, this one actually kind of came to me a little bit ago in my current, at my current employer. I had an older white lady ask to pet my hair. She was like, "Can I touch it?" And she touched it. And she was like, "Oh, it's soft and it's wavy. Oh my god!" And she literally asked me, "Yeah,
it's so coarse. Why is it so rough?"
And when she asked me it, I didn't think anything of it until she touched my hair, and then I was like, "Oh, this shit is racist."
Were you able to get a yes out?
Yeah, I know. I said it beforehand.
So you said yes?
Yeah, I was like, yeah, of course. Why would I care that you're just touching my hair?
That's
Until she touched it, and I felt the grooves over the waves. I felt her fingers roll over the
How
waves.
long ago was that?
Probably 5 years ago.
That's.
Yeah.
I don't know if
I think that's the most racist thing that's ever happened to me. Actually,
that might not even be racist.
and I've been called the hard R.
That might just be curiosity.
I know, but it's still kind of racist.
You feel discriminated. It could be ignorance.
And which there was 2 things I felt about it, even looking back on it. Number one is she felt comfortable enough to ask me, so
Right.
I felt like the lines of communication were open. She knew she wasn't going to get judged until 5 years later on a podcast.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I also think it's kind of weird that you wanted to ask.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
And she used to
strange.
comment all the time because when I had longer hair, I'd wear a wave cap to keep my hair down because I got mixed hair. Like I don't necessarily know what my hair is. It just wants to be whatever it is at whatever length it is.
yeah.
So I would wear a wave cap to keep it down, keep it clean, keep it cut. And she would always be like, "Oh man, there's not a hair out of place on your head." And I'd be like, "Oh, thank you." But
She
looking
was
back on it,
she was always
yeah.
wondering. She was like,
She was like,
that shit feels like.
"Does he purr when I touch it?" You know what I mean? So that's what happened to me. Well, Ghost, what happened? What happened to you? Or when was the time you felt like, oh, this is racist?
There was definitely some time. I remember being young, going with my mom, and I didn't really know why people would follow. I didn't know about racism or discrimination. I remember we used to get followed, like my mom's actually still in the military, but we used to get followed in the commissary sometimes, which is really weird, which is a grocery store on military bases.
Yeah,
and it happened a lot there. But for me personally, once I found out what racism was and I could recognize someone following me, it's definitely happened a few times. But the craziest that stands out would be when I was in Japan, and I was there for a few months, and they have a place in Japan called the American Village. So it's called the American Village because there's a theater that shows American movies. They have subtitles as well. There's like a Starbucks.
Do they serve burgers?
I don't. That was way back, so I don't know.
at that moment, they didn't have a burger joint.
I don't remember there was a lot of stuff there. There probably was some other restaurants and
Like a Johnny Rockets.
shops. Yeah, there was something. They can't say the R's though. In Japan. They said lockets.
Lockets.
But yeah, so we went in this disc, kind of like a discounted store too, but it was a urban clothing store. I don't remember what the name of it was. So there's people working, like in the mall where they have like a Banana Republic or somebody standing outside the door with their shirt off or something, trying to draw you into the store.
Yeah.
He didn't have a shirt off, but there's somebody standing outside.
So you
it's
was
irrelevant.
security?
No, so somebody standing out just to kind of draw people in. So they're wearing.
Was he handing out flyers?
Oh, he had a wave cap on.
He
one of
did,
those
but he
dudes.
had a pair of the pants on. He had the shoes on.
Fat
That were
Farm.
coming stolen. That probably FUBU or something back then.
K-Swiss.
Because this is like 10 years ago. And then he had either he had a jersey or just a shirt of like that would of a brand that would be in the store. So when we noticed him, because we walked by get food, it was like a Baskin Robbins. So it was a Baskin Robbins, and then there was like a clothing store, other ones, a bigger one. And so we decided to go in there. And then as soon as we walked in, there was other people in there. They weren't black, but there was other people in there. It was kind of funny to see like Japanese people. From our first reaction, once we walk in, and he immediately leaves from his post, and he's like just right behind us, which I thought was weird at the time. It's like, okay, you were outside the whole time. He like hustled, and then the other really funny thing was that, and I just thought about this, was that
They sold mixtapes inside.
was seeing these Japanese people looking at like FUBU and just all these throwbacks and stuff. People they probably may or may not know, and some of these things like the colognes and things like that we know of, and there's all knockoffs. So
Drakkar Noir.
yeah, exactly. It was kind of funny, but so we go back to, and there was like watches and stuff we were looking at, and the guy was kind of how the aisles were. He could see us pretty good from where we were in the middle of the store, which is kind of open. Then we went over to the aisles, which I believe was either like the throwback jersey type section or something, some other type of clothes or jeans, and he's just watching us like a hawk and following us. Like I pick up a jersey and I can see his head, like you feel someone looking at you. And at this point I kind of start noticing it, so I pick up like a jersey. And I remember I think it was a Barry Sanders jersey, but I pick up a jersey, and you could see his head moving with, like I'm moving it closer, turning around to see the back, and I see his head like bobbing with how I'm moving the jersey, like he was in a trance. And so I put it back up, and then I pick up a pair of jeans, and I move back to see how to hold him up, and he's like looking, and he's like rushing over to kind of see how I'm holding him up. Like there's one way in, one way out. It's a super, like if he yelled, he stole it. You could have multiple people tackling me. I mean, there's so much. It's not like a small store. It's knockoffs. So this jersey, this Barry Sanders, if I remember correctly, was about $45.
But it's not knockoff if it still was made by the same children.
No, they make it. The jerseys aren't made in. They're not made in Japan. So, so it's a knockoff. It's not a Mitchell and Ness.
Yeah.
And then where am I going?
Dude.
And you had to leave your post. So
That dude was not out there to draw in customers. He
No,
was out there to spot
he was out there to
black
make
people.
sure he was a spotter. He's like, got one in hot, coming in hot. So that was the most racist.
Can we just summarize the story? So you went to the American Village.
Yes.
And then you went into the urban store.
Yes.
You probably got handed a mixtape. Like, hey, listen to this.
Yeah.
And then when you picked up knockoff of clothing, somebody was racially profiling you in the American Village.
That was
in
authentic
the store.
American.
I mean, if it was Japan Village and they thought Japanese people were buying that stuff, it's American Village. There's probably 60 to 70% Americans there. So I'd probably say 60, 65% Americans.
But that made you
so
feel
it's not like
yeah,
you're unused to a black person being there.
How many Ks were in America?
3? More than 2. So it was really weird that you make a store that kind of wants to draw black people in, wants to draw that urban customer in.
Did
consumer.
they sell your size, or was it all Japanese people sizes?
No, it's American Village. They're selling the bigger sizes.
Ghost is also skinny. So when you say American sizes,
But
you're
he's
not
hella
talking
tall.
about but you're not talking about me. You could just add some shit at the bottom.
But they don't.
No, you have to be. It's got to be long enough though. They
Yeah.
don't. It's not.
What? So are you saying you ever had trouble finding clothing in overseas?
Yeah. I mean, usually I don't shop for clothes too much overseas. Their sizes are smaller, but in that specific store was geared towards Americans. So their larges were large.
Okay.
But
I just like that it was American Village. You got racially profiled.
and that's pretty much what happened.
American racism travels.
Yeah. That just made you feel at home.
I guess so. They're like, oh, you would get followed at Ross and
with a tie to try to go get a job.
So we're gonna treat him the same way here.
Yeah.
It's equal opportunity.
Oh man. So let's get into the nonsense.
So another story that I saw this week was that a group of Spanish teachers in California. I believe they were all white, but they took their yearbook pictures with sombreros and mustaches. And there were a lot of people, I guess there were a lot of people that were upset about it and found it offensive. But
were they Spanish?
Were they white?
Were they Spanish though?
I don't know. From the small picture that I saw, they all looked white. They all had white faces.
So they put on the mustaches and sombreros. So
yeah, but even if they are white, who gives a shit?
if you're a Spanish teacher, and you put on the mustache for the yearbook, meh. You know what I mean? Like in 30 years, I don't. You know what I mean? I feel like in 30 years it would be like the governor of Virginia where he got the blackface next to the KKK.
No,
so it's a little different.
No. I'm talking about in 30 years as we become, because I believe honestly,
I don't think so.
we become more.
They'll never be that. We're more sensitive for sure, but that's a little different.
That's someone that actually likes the culture. Someone that went to school to study a language that isn't their own. Most likely has probably traveled in Mexico. Most likely has spent time around Mexican people, learning the language. I think it's unfair to paint those teachers as racist or insensitive, because it's a sombrero and a mustache. Who gives a shit?
I hear you. I just feel like you probably could have got the same feeling of camaraderie or enjoying into the culture in which you're cheating if you just left off the mustache. I think the mustache is the one thing that I'm like, meh. No, I'm not. Let me say this. I'm not outraged. Just like, meh. You could have left that off.
I don't care. You're not Mexican. It's
Yeah,
all right.
that's true. I guess I can't really say shit.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, if a white teacher was teaching African American studies and they just got cornrows, I'd be like, okay. But
What if they took their
but if
picture
they
with
had
the
a-
dashiki?
But if they had FUBU and they were like sagging and they were like, you know what I mean, had a gun in their waist, then I'd be like, all right, my guy, like, chill out. You know what I mean? Like, I guess the mustache makes it kind of untasteful, but I'm not Mexican, so I never want to just like project my outrage onto you.
They didn't have a bottle of tequila. They didn't have a beer. They weren't pretending to be napping. They weren't,
enough.
like it
Yeah,
wasn't
fair enough. It
portraying
could have been
anything
worse.
negative.
It could have been worse.
I really think, I think that's so small. And
Yeah.
I think if we get to make fun of white people, I mean, they deserve it. I mean, they've had their way for quite some time.
No, they're under attack.
But I mean,
White women can't even be what they want when they grow up anymore because of Daenerys.
yeah.
You guys will know about that when you listen to the episode of The Brilliant Minds of Idiots before this show.
But I just think people are too sensitive, and I think it's just kind of crap that a sombrero, mustache are getting people in hot water.
I 1000% agree with you. I'll say this: I'm only giving you the pushback of what some people would feel.
Yeah,
because I'm not really that.
I mean, I
outraged.
feel you on that, but
But
that's
at the
just
same
my
time,
perspective.
at the same time, I don't want to judge Mr. Smith based on not knowing his character. You know what I mean? Like, if those kids walk around and they know that Mr. Smith is with the shits.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, he's rolling. Like, it's Tamale Tuesdays in his classroom and you can go get him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he goes and he supports the community and does whatever. Then nigga wear a mustache and wear the sombrero. You know what I mean?
The only way I'm making a snapshot judgment about you is if you got a MAGA hat on.
You'll also know about that in the last episode of the Brilliant Minds of Idiots as well. I agree with you. I'm not necessarily judging. I'm not judging them based on that.
Yeah.
I would judge the way the teachers and students and parents of those of the students that attend that school, if they have something to say and they're like, oh yeah, Mr. Smith said yada yada yada, did such and such, and he's always been kind of problematic, then I might be rolling.
Yeah.
But if I saw it just on Facebook and some random people who live across the country are judging him, I'm not judging. Miss Yanni has let me get away with a ton of shit. And I went to Spanish 1, 2, and 3. That's why me and Rio are so close. I wouldn't even be his friend. You know what I mean? He didn't even ask me to touch my hair or nothing, and we're this close. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, never asked to touch his hair.
No. I mean, my waves were deep back in the day before I had to go Uncle Phil, like, you know what I mean? Cul-de-sac baldness. Before that, I was rolling in the deep like Adele. It was rough.
It was in Escondido, California.
Yeah, I think that's more. Yeah, it's Southern Cal. So
Springs.
he probably sees a ton of Hispanic or Latin descendant people.
Yeah.
Yes.
What's the difference between Hispanic and Latin?
I don't fucking know.
Okay,
Yeah,
fair enough. Me
People
neither.
that are getting upset about it.
People don't like to be called Hispanic, but
tripping.
pretty much all of them are Hispanic
So
historically.
one of the crazy things that I've heard about it is like people didn't like the word Hispanic because it breaks down to the word his and panic, and it just the man is
I've
trying
never
to do
heard
that because you ain't Mexican.
That's
But
funny.
I've heard that shit before.
That's the most
And,
ridiculous.
yeah.
That is the if you think
Yeah.
I'm crazy because I said that people didn't wipe their ass regularly back in the
Yeah.
day, then that person's fucking nuts.
But
I
think the more accurate term, though, for Mexican people, it would be Chicano.
Okay, Chicago.
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 Can I give you? Can I go deep into another? The way my mind works.
I don't know. If
Last
I'm
time-
ready.
No. This is not
How
messy.
much beer do I have?
No, this is not messy.
I don't think I have that much.
This is clean. I was thinking because you know how the Aztec calendar and everything else just kind of like it just stops at a certain point, right?
Yeah.
And as time keeps going, we keep seeing that there were more civilized and more and smarter civilizations before ours that existed, but they just kind of got wiped off the face of the earth, right? What if they were doing the same thing we are with neglecting climate change and just continuing to do shit, and they just got wiped out by the ice age, and we reset and we keep doing the same shit?
Yeah, we're just abusing our resources.
Yeah, I kind of feel like that might be the way that
Yeah.
this shit keeps going.
The earth just wipes us out in hopes that it gets it right again. It's
Yeah.
like maybe these motherfuckers will learn.
Maybe the earth needs us around to keep feeding it plastic surgery. Maybe earth is the reason. Maybe earth is Kim Kardashian, and we keep, you know what I mean, adding plastic and what I think the lithium ion batteries and AirPods and all that shit won't be broken down for like 1,000 years or whatever.
Wow.
Same thing with Black China's ass. When she's dead, them ass implants are gonna be there. She will be nothing. Them ass implants will be in the ground.
Yeah, very true.
That's all I'm saying. So maybe, you know what I mean?
Maybe they should take them out before they bury them and just recycle them, you know?
Oh, maybe you can get like a second hand, like a
second-hand
Craigslist.
ass. Yeah.
Oh, the donor. Let go.
Yeah.
Get it on. Put it on. Let go before you go.
Like at 70 years old when them motherfuckers are hitting your heel as you're walking because your ass is so droopy.
When they've just separated from the
Yeah.
fat and the tissue of your
Yeah.
body.
As your titties are being tucked into your waist because the implants are so heavy
Yeah.
and your skin's so pliable at that point, just let go.
Yeah.
Let go.
Just let them go for the second half.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Second hand
Sell
ass.
that and the
Let someone
Bowflex.
else.
You know what I mean? Package deal. Package deal. Yeah, that's how my brain works though. I was thinking that, like, why did, because there's a point in which like all of the modern civilizations that were pre us just like cease to exist.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like maybe it's just climate change.
There's I listen to the Joe Rogan podcast. I like it because he has such a wide range of guests on the show.
For sure.
And I just listened to a scientist that was on his show that said that there is evidence that supports the fact that there were multiple mass extinctions throughout the history of Earth created by meteor strikes and things of that nature. So,
Wow.
so those are all things that could factor into that as well. He talked about the way our orbit is. We go through this certain like asteroid belt every so often, and that the chances of us getting hit are always there, but we've just kind of been lucky for quite some time now. And he goes into it a lot in way more detail, and it makes way more sense than what I probably sound like right now. But
No, that makes sense to me. That makes sense to me.
he says that they are finding more and more evidence that does support that theory. That there were multiple meteors that hit Earth and caused mass extinctions.
I mean that shit makes sense to me. That makes sense to me. I refuse to believe that we are this lucky to have evolved, quote unquote, all this time. Depends on if you're conservative or not. To get to where we are today as motherfuckers who use baby filters on Snapchat.
And there's even evidence of like really advanced technological advances.
That's how you know what niggas has evaporated. His whole vocabulary has been expended. That nigga's like, yeah, I can't.
Advanced technological.
You know, there's advanced
Yeah.
technological.
I forgot what he was saying, but he was talking about different
nothing.
things that they've found that point to them being way more advanced than what we ever thought.
Can I tell you? Can I tell you a story that I read on Facebook about some motherfuckers who just aren't evolved? So there's a millennial couple who just had a baby. I don't know what city. I don't know what town. I don't know what any of that. I just read. I read the post, and they're a millennial couple, and they just had a baby, right? And they were asking people. It was on Nextdoor. Nextdoor is just a social media app that posts shit for your community. Within a certain amount of miles, you can drill it down to whatever you want. So they were like, hey, we just had a baby and, we're kind of busy and this is our first kid. So if anybody wants to, cook or assist us in any way, we would be more than willing to take it. And then the shit escalated really quick. So they put up like 50 recipes and they started putting up like, oh, well, my husband doesn't eat potatoes. And if you want to bring food, we won't answer the door, but we'll leave a cooler outside. You can let us know ahead of time.
Oh wow!
And you can put the food in the
because we're busy
in the cooler. And then they were like, "Oh, if you can't cook, come bust these suds or vacuum." Like these niggas went out of control.
Oh, wow.
These niggas went out of control. So not only was the thread 50 recipes long about what they were considering
what they
eating,
wanted.
Yeah. So they sent you the recipe, and then they were like, "Oh, if you can't cook, we got dishes. If you want to vacuum, we got laundry."
Did anybody volunteer?
Their next door neighbor, their across the street next door neighbor volunteered. That's the last time I looked into the thread.
Was that here in Sacramento?
No. No, it wasn't in Sacramento.
Goodness.
But I think maybe it's time to reset civilization.
Yeah.
I think they tie in together.
Ask this favor, but now you got to do it this way.
No.
And if you can't, then
It's one thing to say, "Hey."
I'll tell you what, though. After being a parent, that's something that I do for every person that I know that has a kid. I cook them a meal that they could freeze and put in their and they could just use whenever they want, because that shit does help.
I agree.
It does,
but I
but
bet
it's
they don't
crazy
say.
that
I
you
bet they don't say.
Yeah.
Is this potatoes?
Yeah. Are they red?
You know
Are they
what I mean?
red or Idaho?
Yeah.
and do that same.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet they don't say. I said skim milk.
Yeah.
Like, and then just send it back. Like, I'm pretty sure.
I bet you don't send you like, "Hey, you're gonna bring something over," and you're like, "Oh yeah, I made enchilada last night. I got some leftovers," and the person's like, "No, that's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. I'm gonna need some asparagus. I just had the baby, and I'm working less, so I need to keep my calories down. So if you can come up with the asparagus and the baked chicken, and some cauliflower." And if you could stop by Trader Joe's and grab me a bottle of red wine, I like this flavor.
And a gallon of milk.
And then like, "Hey, can I touch your hair?" You know what I mean? Like I feel like all this shit is connected.
Yes.
But I saw that shit and I thought, man, Rhea would love that story. Not that you would like to participate,
No,
but that shit is wild.
Yeah.
That shit is wild. Let's see what else we got. Like I said, we're gonna keep this short. We're already at about an hour and a half.
I feel bad for that kid though.
Yeah, his parents are gonna be shit tight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mushrooms. I like shiitake mushrooms.
Shiitake.
Yeah. I was listening to. Speaking of, I was listening to Joe Rogan, and I'm very selective on who I listen to with Joe Rogan because them bitches be like 3 hours long.
Yeah.
And he puts out like nine a week, which we're doing 3. So I feel him. I feel him. But he had on Neil Brennan. Neil Brennan was the co-creator of.
I've been meaning to watch.
Oh, I love. He
to that
actually
one.
started his own podcast, What Neil Feel. And I just like Neil Brennan in general. But Neil Brennan co-created Chappelle's Show with Dave Chappelle, right? So he's funny. His Netflix special 3 Mics was really good.
Yeah,
I think he's really good, but he's also he's an acquired taste almost, kind of, because you can't take yourself seriously if you're going to listen to him because he doesn't take himself seriously either.
although he talked about some serious shit.
He does. He just doesn't take himself serious.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Well, he said he just went to Singapore, right? And he said he went to just some not like in Sacramento, the Roseville Galleria Mall. He went to Florin Mall,
Okay.
And at night, their mall turns into a brothel, but like a Costco warehouse brothel.
Nice.
Where there's just four
Wholesale?
floors. There's just 4 floors
Samples?
of I don't know if he got a sample. Ask him. It's sliding his DMs. I hope he got a sample. So
Did she wear a hairnet though?
would you roll into there? Would you go to it? Because I think I'd go to it only to see it, not to purchase, not to feel comfortable. I think it would just be nuts to see a Nordstrom's rack turn into Sally's rack, and it just be a bunch of like prostitutes standing there. Because we all know that whether or not they agree or disagree with that lifestyle, something in their life is making them sell their bodies, and it's probably not a good thing. Like they didn't win the lottery and like, well, fuck it. Let's go suck some dick.
In other countries, a lot of it's trafficking, though.
I know. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I'm not accusing them of sex trafficking. Yeah. I'm not accusing them of anything. I'm just saying if they're there, because I mean to get a Costco size amount of whores into one place, that is not sex trafficking. No. That's sex transporting.
Like, a lot of it's trafficking.
No, I know that. I'm just talking about in Singapore. I know a lot of it is, but to have that many there and people just walking around like free samples, try the Nature Valley granola bar. You know what I mean? It's on aisle 57.
That's a hippie chick, if you're wondering.
Yeah. She definitely does wipe her ass. Would you go to a place like that just to see it? Because I think I would.
Oh, I don't know.
I think I'd go to the Netherlands. I think Amsterdam has a red light district. I don't think I'd purchase. I'm not purchasing anything. I'm old, I'm washed, and I'm bald.
They don't care.
No. I do, though. No, what I mean is I don't necessarily know if I have the energy to do anything like that. And pay for it. I'm past paying.
A funny story about this. Japan, Korea. So this was in Korea this time. So the other Asian country.
What do you mean the other?
Because I was in Japan.
Japan. I'm sorry. I was just trying to clarify for the conservatives.
Okay. For the so I was in Korea and they had maybe. Nope. My bad. This was
Japan.
So this was Japan again. So this is in Japan. So another Japan story.
Yeah.
This is in Japan, and they had
those guys are crazy out there.
They are. So they have a like on base, like you have NCO club, officers club. They do a bunch of things that they do, like buffets.
Can you explain what an NCO club
is?
So
NCO is just for people who aren't officers, and then officers club is for people who are officers. But they have like food there. They have events, raffles, dances.
National Colored Officer Club.
It's non-commissioned officer.
Oh, okay.
So you're not commissioned.
Okay.
But they'll have buffets on Friday. We went to like steak nights and things like that, or just a bunch of other things. So, anyways, at nights on weekends, it was actual like club. There was music. They had bars in there. There was a couple of different rooms, like chill room, like a hip hop or top 40s hits type room, then like the rock and roll country room.
Was there sex in the champagne room?
No, but I'm getting to that though.
Okay.
So
what a tease.
I know.
We'll be back right after these messages.
So I'm getting I was there with my friends. They had left. And
wait. Were you there with your friends or did they leave?
No, I was there with my friends, and then they left.
Okay.
So we were at this point we were actually staying. We were staying off base. Usually, stay on base. They were full, so we were staying off base. So usually, I would walk home, but we weren't on base, so I had to get a taxi. So, anyways, I go out, and there's this place called, I'm gonna mess up the name, but there's this. I'm hungry because I'm always. I'm always hungry. So there's this place called
Fat
you're
burger.
drinking, you just get hungry. But there was this place called Yoshi something. So Yoshi Yumi, Yoshihara something, and it was like this really good noodle place that was open 24 hours. It had like the chicken, it was really good. So chicken was probably the most.
They had the chicken. Man,
The chicken and
nigga
noodles.
Ghost
I
is.
know.
What a nigga
I mean,
ghost
if
is.
Popeyes
It
is
was
open,
so
if Popeyes is open after a night of drinking at 3 a.m, you're going to Popeyes.
Ghost.
That's what it was.
What I'm telling you is before they close that Popeyes buffet in New Orleans.
Yeah, we gotta do it.
We got to.
That's on the bucket list.
Yes.
The short bucket list.
Yes.
My top 5.
It's in the pale.
Because it's gonna close soon.
Yeah.
Most likely.
Not if niggas are down there.
No, not if I keep it
They're
open.
gonna go at it, niggas. Yeah.
But so I tell the taxi driver to take me to this food place. But there's this a name of a red light district in Japan is called Yoshi something else. I don't know what the two are. There's like Yoshihara and there's Yoshiyumas or something. It's Yoshiyumas or something. So he takes me to the red light district of Japan or of this town. I'm not in the best state of mind. I drank a lot, but it was like, I'm not believing what I'm seeing. Cause I'm looking, it was so funny at first thinking about it. Cause I'm still looking for the noodle place and there's like women inside these glass doors. So it's like, there's glass, like you would kind of see on TV, like
Where's
sliding
the
glass
fucking
doors,
Yeah. Oh,
sliding
man.
glass doors and like stools and women are just sitting on them. In like scantily, clothes and like bras or whatever they were wearing, and trying to try. And there's people walking by. It's like the flea market, but there's glass and there's women and there's a bunch of tiny alleys and just crazy dark. Extra sketchy. And for probably no lie, because the main aisle is kind of big, and then you go off into like some crazy.
Yeah, you go into
the weird
So
shit.
probably into the end, like probably the small people and stuff.
1900 BC.
But
plumbing.
I'm no lie throughout the whole first aisle, and like a couple turns in when I didn't realize he was actually thinking I was looking and going to tell him to stop. For like the first, I'm going to say 3 or 4 minutes, I'm still looking for the chicken. I'm still looking, and then I realized I was like, wait, what is? And he was like, yeah, because he kept looking back like, yeah, like. Like we were there because we were there to him. So
dark meat.
Yeah. So he was looking back like, yeah. I was like, no, I don't see it. I don't see it. And then I realized, and he was like, yeah. I was like, oh, we're in like the red light district of Japan.
Did you have to like motion a bowl of noodles? Like
So I said, no. He's like, you like? Because we finally was driven around a while at this point. He's like, you like? And I was like, no, I mean like Yoshi, I made like chopstick. I made like chopstick symbol. It was like the noodle, like I'm trying to explain exactly what the restaurant 24 hour, he's like, oh, and he started laughing. He's like laughing super hard at me.
Yeah.
Like, and then he said something that was hilarious at the end. I wish I remember. He said something like,
Niggas be crazy.
After I finally described him and he got what I was saying, he said something like, you sure you don't want, like, while we're here, you want to go ahead and get one in? Or he said something extra funny in perfect English somehow too. Like he had said it before. He was like, you want to get one in or something, like while we're here?
Liddy to Digi.
But yeah, that was so I saw I'm sure it's much smaller than Amsterdam, but I saw a red light district in Japan. It was pretty crazy.
Yeah, I've heard.
And
the
you
one
just
in
trying to get some noodles, man.
Don't they have like
some chicken.
vending machines with underwear in them?
Yep, they have that in Japan. Oh, and the same in the American Village, they sell, which is back to the previous story. They have a section that sells used panties in the American Village in a different store.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say in the urban store
urban
they sell used do rags.
Nah, they probably do, but
Wait, we don't want that to be synonymous with American.
I know it was. I mean,
No. That's still in Japan. We don't do that here.
It's Japan. So they don't know what we do.
Yeah,
they were selling used panties.
But the Japanese might think that we're down with that.
Yeah.
Used panties. Who gets the commission on that? And from a vending machine?
Guessing the people. It wasn't an event. That was in a store.
Oh my goodness.
So it was like probably, I don't know how it was set up, but I remember driving by. People were like, oh, that's where they sell. It's like actually in a corner to where, not that section, but the store you can see from walking, because we have to park in a parking lot kind of off to the side.
Yeah,
and when they're walking across the street to get to the kind of the court, like the main square where there's like dancing and stuff in the middle. That's the store. Like right there is a store where they sell the used panties. So I didn't go in there, but I don't know if it's on the rack. I don't know if it's in the back room, but I don't know if there's a sample where the guy, you want to try it out first in the room by yourself. I don't know.
What do you? I never understood. What do you do with used panties?
I think they probably get off to it. No, maybe. I think there's probably. They probably like.
Are they broken in like?
But you
don't
know whose they are, and not that I would like them either way. But if you don't know whose they are, how does how that
and
makes
I'm
it
crazy.
worse?
And I'm crazy.
That makes it worse.
I wonder if they have like a package date. Like this was packaged on.
Do they expire?
Like olive oil?
Yeah.
Do they expire?
This was pressed on July 1st.
Fresh.
Oh my goodness, that is terrible.
Yeah, but maybe it has a picture. Maybe it has a selfie on the front of the package.
They're all the same girl.
Get that money.
I just don't understand what people are going to do with used panties. I never understood that.
I don't either.
I never understood what you're just going to do. You're just
There's
going to open that little
fetishes and stuff though.
Yeah,
so.
that's crazy. That's nuts to me.
Yeah.
But so is you know what I mean, writing the
things.
Bible after not having plumbing, and people following it thousands of years later. I don't necessarily know if this is a good transition. I meant to do this before, but I think we got sidetracked with the American Village. So Louis Farrakhan's, was it his Facebook that got taken down?
Yeah, Facebook.
Oh,
Yeah, and he got unverified on Twitter, which I don't necessarily know what the fuck that means if you were following him.
Yeah.
And then Alex Jones got taken off of all of his platforms. How do we feel about the censorship of quote unquote ignorance? Because just to lay the platform out, these are private industries. Facebook is a private company. Twitter's is publicly traded, but it's owned privately. So your constitutional right to freedom of speech doesn't necessarily apply. But once the president gets to write down and everything becomes public record for the president, I don't necessarily know if Twitter can say, oh, it's a private company anymore. If that makes any sense. Like once a federal judge rules that everything that the president says on Twitter is I forget what the term was.
It should be like entered into the national record.
Yeah, like a presidential record.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily know if you can still use that same shit to tell me about Alex Jones or whatever. But how does everybody feel about the censorship of quote unquote ignorance?
I just don't like anybody's freedom of speech being limited. And I understand what you say in regards to these being private companies. However, they are publicly traded. They're damn near everybody has one. I think that I do think that it is unfair to silence some of these people, whether I agree with them or not. I think Alex Jones is absolutely batshit crazy. And I don't know what good he may bring to the greater society, but I don't agree with silencing his free speech because it becomes a slippery slope, and who knows where that leads to.
Yeah, I think part of the silencing is subjective as far as opinions as well, and things they don't want to get out. So I agree. It's a public forum. People can read it. They can agree with it. They can not agree with it. They can hate the opinion. But it stops there. I mean, if there's actions being taken on it, of course, that's something that can be used. But I don't know why limiting. Then they could just go out and say it, in front of the public if they want. And how is that any different to me? I
think that just kind of further emboldens their followers as well. Like, oh yeah, our freedom of speech is being suppressed, and we do need to, do this or do that, or I think it just kind of emboldens people and it digs them in their stance. Nobody is silenced and is like, yeah, you know what, I'm right. You guys are right. I'm
on
wrong.
Twitter. Yeah, that's not the thing that makes me stop fighting. I'm unverified on Twitter, especially a guy like Louis Farrakhan who's been doing it for a long time. So
I think I'm rolling with you guys. I don't think I kind of feel like it's one of those things where if a person wants to believe that and follow that, and Alex Jones had people coming after some of the Sandy Hook survivors, parents, victims and survivor parents, and if people want to kind of take that position and come after those people, my I guess my response to them, or my fix for them, would be to get off of that social media platform, because it's not your right to be able to be on Twitter without being heckled or without you feeling some kind of I don't necessarily know if I'd say animosity, but somebody saying some crazy shit about you. I think that's kind of comes with the territory on being on a social platform, is that regular random people can come in and say some crazy shit to you. And if you want, you could just shut the shit down. You could just delete your Twitter, delete your Facebook, and move on. Or you can combat each individual person who's commenting on a post that you don't like. You could do whatever it is, but that I think both of those acts are freedom of speech, regardless. And I kind of, Alex Jones is he problematic? Oh, for sure. But it would be one thing if the majority of people were kind of following and he was becoming this huge, strong force and becoming like the majority of people and, all of America. And you felt like you had to take a drastic step in order to right a ship, quote unquote. But it's always a fringe for Alex Jones. So I'm not rolling with taking those people off now.
Because what happens when it's Black Lives Matter?
Yeah. Like, where does it stop?
Yeah. And I kind of, the reason they do stuff like that is because if someone's speaking on a certain topic that's controversial, that's going against people that's just obviously kind of discriminatory, wrong, or against maybe popular belief, it makes the company, in this case maybe Twitter, look bad. And so Twitter's going to get pressure from maybe it's stockholders, maybe it's whoever, to say, let's take this off because you're making because the company is now losing credibility. Yeah. So that's where I can see it, and but they can do certain things to help that. They can change. What I mean, free speech is free speech. You can kind of say.
No, but hold on, just to push back on that. Twitter is not a Twitter like Twitter and Facebook is literally the only way they have any reputation is the fact that they have people on there. It's not what's being said on it. You know what I mean?
But there's pushback when certain things are said. That's how you get.
I know what you mean. But what I'm saying is, if Twitter stood fast in the, in my opinion, and this is just me, I can't talk about how whoever else would, but if people were pushing back and saying get Alex Jones off of Twitter, but they stood fast and be like, look, it's freedom of speech. Yeah. We're not policing anybody. Just because we don't agree with them doesn't mean that we can, or don't roll with them doesn't mean that we have to. We're going to take him off of Twitter. It's a more of a educational thing, and everybody else should be able to hear it, make your own decision, and move on from there. I think that works better for Twitter than having Chris Broussard tell me that he talks to Kevin Durant all the time, or Alex Jones. They both could be lies.
Yeah, and I think they should still, like I said, what I said at first, I still believe that they should allow free speech. I'm saying that's, if the other side, that would kind of be the pressure that they're getting, but they can come across and say, these aren't our beliefs. We don't condone this stuff, but he's just saying what he believes, and he has the right to do that.
That's what I'm saying. If that was the release, that was the release where we don't condone any of it, we're not promoting any of it. And if they just didn't promote it, you know how sometimes on social medias you'll see people that are promoted. If they just left him in the dark corners where you had to search Alex Jones or Louis Farrakhan or whatever, and they didn't pop up in a general search,
I
I'm
think
okay
that's
with
what unverifying them does on Twitter. Is
maybe.
it makes
Okay.
it harder
Okay,
to find
so
them.
that's-
Okay,
makes sense
and
to
I,
me.
and I can roll with that. I can roll with that. But if you were following them anyway, you're not going to unfollow them because it's unverified.
But I mean,
you know
for
what
new people,
yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm okay
they're
with those,
less
but
accessible.
deleting their whole
And muting them.
or blocking them.
It just does
Blocking
more.
them.
It does more damage than what your intended good is.
I think in my opinion that damages your reputation more than the fact that you have Alex Jones on your platform.
No, I think it makes his following stronger.
No. I agree with you. I agree with
So
you on
you're-
that. And
you're
I'm
having
saying
the adverse effect on it.
I'm saying the pressure that what Ghost was saying about the pressure of the people saying, oh, well, these people are on your platform and that hurts your reputation. To me, if you left them on there, I think it actually solidifies your reputation where it's equal opportunity for everybody. And maybe the people they roll with, you know what I mean? Tony Robbins or whatever, and somebody who speaks a bunch of positivity, he is easily searched. Where, you know what I mean, you're looking for Tony Rock and Tony Robbins comes up as the first thing. You know what I mean? There's other ways to combat it, in my opinion, but muting those people is never the option, in my opinion. That's just how I feel.
Yeah.
So we'll go to from one. We'll finish off with two things, two of the crazier things, and then we'll get out of here. So there was a comedian in I was listening to Joe Rogan, and there was a comedian in Canada who made a joke about a Make-A-Wish Foundation recipient where I'm sorry, I wasn't listening to Joe Rogan. It wasn't Joe Rogan. It was another show that I was listening to. A Canadian comedian made a joke about a Canadian resident or citizen. He was a Make-A-Wish Foundation recipient. He went to the Vatican or he went somewhere else, and the comedian pretty much made the joke where this person isn't dead yet. Do we get a refund if he lives a decent life? Well, the person, the dude who was the premise of the joke, sued the comedian for $30,000 and actually won in Canada because he said that his public reputation was taking a hit, as if maybe he was faking it or if he could control whether he lived or died, yada yada yada.
Was it Jim Jeffries?
I don't know. I don't necessarily know.
I know he has a bit about a Make-A-Wish.
But how do you feel about it?
I don't know. I kind of feel like the comedian should be able to say those types of things. However, I guess I could kind of see the other person's perspective as well. Whereas if it is impacting their life, maybe they should be entitled to something. But it's hard. It's hard for me to say that. That's really tough.
Yeah, I don't, and I'm not in Canada, so I don't know how they look at things or how word spreads or whatever, but how popular this comedian is.
Yeah.
I don't think that joke is really out of bounds,
Like
in my opinion.
How much?
And
could
how
it really
can it
affect
really
you?
hurt you that you're living?
Yeah.
If you actually have if you really look at it and almost take the comedian stance, if you have a chronic illness, what are your quality of life? How is it getting worse? Whether you're going to live 5 more years or 6 more months, how is it getting worse because someone says you lived longer than you should have, and you got to go to make your wish come to a Vatican or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So that's my whole thing with it. I don't know if it got worse, or if maybe the joke was a little more than just about him surviving. Then okay, but from that little bit of information, I don't really think that
It was not Jim Jeffries. That's not the comedian who was sued. I just wanted to do a little bit of research to try to get some background. It was just it was contested and it was held up, and he did have to pay $35,000. I guess it's different. If I was like Rio de Janeiro went to such and such place, and did he really make a wish, or is he yada yada yada? I guess it depends on how specific the joke was maybe. I guess maybe if you're being specific about the person and what they did and saying that person immediately, but if you're generalizing it, you should definitely not win the money. You shouldn't win the judgment if I'm just being vague. But if I'm like, yo, Ghost and Rio, they went to, you know what I mean, a Steelers game as a Make-A-Wish Foundation, and they got da-da-da-da-da, and, you know what I mean, went to the Japanese red light district and got followed in the American Village, and I was being very specific about your life, then maybe I could see him winning that, because that's a very direct joke about somebody's life, where especially if they're not popular or they can't really defend themselves or don't have the platform. I'm not saying that I agree with the ruling, but I could see where the ruling may be in their favor, because, you know, I mean, the ruling rulings in court are just weird sometimes to me. So I don't think I would find it in his favor, but I could see where it would happen if it was very specific to him. His name was used in a joke. You know what I mean? His situation was used in a joke. Oh, Rio's, you know what I mean? He had cancer and they said he was going to die in a year. And then he went to, you know what I mean, a Denver Bronco game. And then he lived forever as he owed the Denver Broncos, you know what I mean, a couple sacks. You know what I mean? While that could be a joke, it's very specific to your situation. So I could see that. But if you're just saying, hey, there was a dude who went to a Denver Bronco game, and while I could Google it, what the fuck does that mean? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I guess the nuance of that joke or whatever. I just think it's wild that, number one, you sue for $35,000. It's not even that much money. I guess maybe because it's Canada.
Pretty reasonable.
Yeah, it's kind of Canada. You know what I mean?
It's a lot of money still.
It is a lot of money, but I mean, in Canada, you know, in America, we sue that nigga for like $17 million and sell out of court right now for 9.8.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So I guess that's a bigger. I guess that's a Canadian thing. You know what I mean? I was watching a Netflix show, and they had like a crime syndicate around maple syrup, and I was like, oh, that's the most Canadian shit I've ever seen. They interviewed a guy, and he was a black market Canadian like syrup seller. But if you're in America and you're on the black market, you're never gonna go on camera. And they were like, oh, Steve James, he's a black market guy. He sells syrup from these people, and then the other person who sells him the syrup, who deals with them all the time, she was like, yeah, I sell him syrup on the black market all the time. And I was like, oh, this is fucking Canada. This fucking episode is the most Canadian shit I've ever seen. So we'll transfer from that to we'll close with this with this one. So there was a lady, I think it was in Virginia or it was somewhere on the East Coast. When she died, she put in her will that her dog needed to be buried with her. The dog was in healthy condition, and they euthanized the dog, and they buried the dog with her. Not that the body would be post, exhumed or what, I think that's the word.
Postmortem.
Yeah, where, you know what I mean, when the dog dies naturally. I mean, you could the lady was rich too. I mean, if you have a will, you kind of got some money. I mean, broke people never have a will. Will you pay off my credit card debt? That's the broke people will. So they killed the dog and they actually buried it with her. Like her lawyers fought for it. Like, nah, that's what she wanted. So.
What was this? Was this in?
I think it was in the United States. It was on the East Coast, I believe. How you guys feel about that? That's kind of wild, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it makes no sense because they could have let the dog live its life. She's not going to know the difference. The dog could have just lived its life and then still been buried with her. Yeah. But for the dog,
neither one of them is going to know.
And I don't even know how that's. I know obviously it's depending on the state of the South. It probably within the South, or maybe it's a little different. But how is it legal to just kill a dog just because? I guess we're putting it down. I don't know. It's all.
It's her property, though, isn't it? Is the dog her property?
Yeah, technically, yeah. That's what they were saying.
Yeah.
But if it's alive,
yeah, but you still can't treat it. You're writing in a contract to treat it to neglect the to neglect. We talk about all that.
It was an easy kill, you know. That it felt no pain.
Well, Rio's the wrong person to.
yeah, Rio
Rio got excited.
Yeah, Rio had a motherfucking dog for 72 hours, and that was 36 too long. That nigga was ready to get that dog the fuck out of the house.
I'm not like a dog lover, but I just feel like it could have still lived its life. You go, so the dog has to go right away.
I think it's just wild that attorney was like, "Nah, nigga, it's on paper."
Who even signs it? What if Tony Rice said, like, okay, I'll write it up, but I wouldn't actually.
Because the lady, I'm assuming, like I said, broke people don't have wheels, so I'm assuming the dog could probably just stayed at, an Embassy Suite, had free breakfast, had happy hour. You could just put that. You could say, yeah, you could put that bitch. It was, I think, probably a female dog. Yeah. Could have put that bitch out in a hotel. She could have stayed at the motherfucking. The Waldorf Astoria, you know what I mean? And she could have just been, you know what I mean, until she died. You know what I mean? And she only good for, let's be honest. The dog's only going to live for like 12 years, no matter what fucking breed it is. You know what I mean? If the max is going to live a healthy life is like 12, 13 years. You could have held on for another 5 years and not killed the dog and you let it be. You know what I mean? Be a star. You could have been Kim Kardashian. You could have gave it some motherfucking hand-me-down, let it go, breast implants or something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You could have did something crazy like that, but just to kill a healthy dog is nuts.
A dog bed made out of recycled asses.
Yeah. I mean, it might be hard depending on what what time period. If you got the old school, you got the Pamela Andersons, that motherfucker's hard as a rock. But you got the new Black Chinas or the new Kim Kardashians, that motherfucker's memory foam.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You put your face in it.
Lived a good life.
Yeah, kid, you know what I mean? Kanye West been kind of, they had a surrogate, I think, on their last kid, but he's been smashing that motherfucker for, I don't know, they're married for what, 5 years ago, baby?
Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't.
He's doing Sunday service now, so.
Kanye doesn't really exist to me.
No, that nigga exists. You just don't fuck with him. Like,
you don't acknowledge him.
To me, I said he doesn't exist to me. I didn't say at all.
He's just a wild.
Don't pay attention to him.
Yeah, he's a wild dude. I don't like Kanye either. I don't like that people hold Kanye in this huge regard as if he can't be knocked off his pedestal.
Yeah,
that's my thing. I guess with Kanye, that nigga's regular, just like me. He just had more money. He ain't got no fucking. His first album was College Dropout. That nigga's just as smart as I am. That nigga was probably thinking about the fucking Bible and the way it was written too, just like me. Like, man, with plumbing, bro, we'd be way more tolerant. Left motherfucking Moses in the add some shit. You know what I mean? Fred Flintstone some shit into some tablets. That's all I'm saying. If we just look at the shit crazier, you know what I mean?
Crazier is right.
Yeah, in context, this shit might work a little bit more. That's all I'm saying. So with that being said, we will go ahead.
10.
Yeah, we will episode 10. Enjoy the 7 hours of my sultry, sexy voice penetrating your ears, along with that bum ass nigga Ghost, who's been racially profiled in several countries.
Yeah.
And Rio,
racism strong.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And if you see BK out there, tell her to leave that black person alone.
Yeah, tell her not to call the cops.
Yeah, don't call the cops. He's just trying to. She's just trying to sell some water. We both chose a different time in which a white lady just fucked up a ton. That's crazy. Please rate, subscribe, listen. You don't have to listen. No, put this shit on mute and play it at 3 times speed. So you could get the fuck out of here in like 45 minutes, but we get to listen. That's all we need is to listen. You know what I mean? So with that being said, thank you for listening to the Brilliant Minds of Idiots, where you got the questions and goddamn it, these dumbass minds got all the answers. This is the Brilliant Minds of Idiots. Thank you for listening.
Right.
Fuck this shit, I'm out. Fuck this shit, I'm out. No thanks. Don't mind me. I'ma just grab my stuff and leave. Excuse me, please. Fuck this shit, I'm out. Nope. Fuck this shit, I'm out. Alright then. I don't know what the fuck just happened, but I don't really care. I'ma get the fuck up out of here. Fuck this shit, I'm out.